I think face-to-face is probably the best way. I think that would work well with me. I think to actually be able to question someone, to speak to someone, to get to hear about their ideas and their views.
Probably the radio, because I listen to the radio all the time, whether it's travelling to work, at work. TV not quite so much, because as soon as the adverts come on, fast forward it. Or just go make a cup of tea. So yeah, the radio most definitely, or girly magazines.
The best medium, I think for people our age as well, is the internet. I mean, it's social networking sites like Facebook and video sites like YouTube, using them is the best way to interact with us, because that's where most of us spend half our time. I suppose some form of media advertisement, they could, not just writing in broadsheets and other such newspapers, they could go into magazines as well, and normal ones that teenagers read, and go into those and state their opinions, because that way teenagers will make more notice of it and actually get involved more.
Well, I think it's really useful just to get a simple guide out to people of what they're actually voting for. I mean, the moment you turn 18, you get sent a letter saying you can vote now, you put on the electoral register, but you don't really know what you're voting for unless you really look into it.
I think going out on the doorstep or going to the pub, you know, this is stuff that's really simple, and actually going out to somewhere where voters feel comfortable and they can actually engage with politicians, instead of just going to some building somewhere or other and then dropping a leaflet through the door. You know, that's not probably the best way to communicate messages, really. Even YouTube, despite Gordon Brown's complete failure to act well doing that, I think YouTube is a good way to connect young voters.
It has to be online and through things such as the radio, television and film actually. Most people go online, especially young people will go online. You know, if you have a question or you want to find out about something, you go to a search engine, type it in and see what you get. It might be Google, might be Wikipedia, it might be whatever. And actually they need to be able to communicate that through the medium of online communications. I think that will attract a greater deal of people.
For me, I think it would be television, because it gives you a broader overview.
Maybe if I got like a 30-second news clip, maybe on my iPod, and I could just watch that and be informed, and then I'd understand it without having someone else influence me.
I suppose if Obama, he used YouTube and Facebook, and it is the best way to communicate to us, because most teenagers use YouTube and Facebook, and if they just make a video saying this is what we're doing at the moment, and make a group and just simple stuff like that.
It is quite tricky, because the most effective thing that we're influenced by every day is probably newspapers.
I think they need to use a mixture of both old and new forms of media. And there's a lot to be said for using Facebook and YouTube, social networking sites in general, blogs and that sort of thing. But there's also still a big market for having actual physical reporting on the goings-on, for having events covered in the news, on the TV, radio, newspapers.